everybody, this is No Excuses. My name's Rodney Arbona. I'm here with my very special guest, Rick Braun, and he's going to give us his wisdom on how he got to where he is today with his smooth sounds. How are you, Rick?
I'm doing very well, but I don't know. If I give you my wisdom, it's going to be a short show, I'll tell you that.
Short and sweet, right?
Exactly. I know two things.
Great things come in small boxes.
All right. Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Rodney. Great, really glad to be here. It's the Berks Jazz Fest, and it's an honor to be included in this great event. And,
sure is.
It's really fun to be here.
Yeah, this is a marvelous venue. So many awesome talents,
yeah.
And a lot of new talents coming in, which is great. And I'm sure they look at you and say, "Hey, Rick, what's happening?"
Yeah, it's funny because I remember not that many years ago. It seems like anyway. People were calling me the new kid on the block and all this, and but now it's living legend.
There you go. And you are a legend. I've been listening to music for
and I'm alive.
And you're alive.
I'm alive.
And we're sharing it.
Exactly.
There's no way we could have done the weekend at Bernie's with you.
That's right.
So you're a hometown boy, basically. This is I know we're in Reading, but Allentown, I believe, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Center City, Allentown, Pennsylvania. I went to Deerhoff High School. First started playing the horn when I was 8 years old, and played in the marching band and district band and all state band and all East bands, and
that's fantastic.
Went on to the Eastman School of Music.
Beautiful.
And, left there after 3 years and moved to Los Angeles, California.
Fantastic. Yeah. And we calling LA home now?
Since 1976, I've lived in Los Angeles. But I still remember coming to Reading as a kid. Back to school time, my mom would bring me out here to buy all my clothes at the outlets.
That's great.
Because my dad worked at the Bethlehem Steel.
Sure.
He worked in the plant.
That's right.
And we were Center City kids, so
that's
came to
awesome.
the outlets, saved that money, man.
And look how things evolved. The Steel Stacks is now a huge venue for music. Right?
It is.
Music Fest gets almost 1 million people within a week.
It's awesome, and I've played a couple times at Steel Stacks, and with the steel mill in the background lit up, and I shared the story about my dad and how he worked there, and we didn't have a lot of money, but when trumpet was something that was important to me, he found the money to get me a horn and get me to a good school, and so it was pretty emotional because I was standing right in front of the place that made that all possible.
That's fantastic. So what was it like with you going through school? Because you're just such an awesome talent, and very few of us can ever get to that level.
Well, I love trumpet. I mean, I still remember when I found that horn in the closet, because my brother was a trumpet player, and then he stopped playing when he went out for high school basketball, and then that was a short-lived career because he really wasn't. But he left the trumpet at home, and I found it. And I still remember that day when I found it. And there's something about when I opened the case. It was the smell of the horn, the feel of it, and just the look of it. I just was like, and when I picked it up and could get a sound out of it, which is, as you know,
unusual.
Yeah, it's not easy to get a sound out of it uncoached. And it was a love affair from the beginning, and it's turned into a love-hate affair because of the nature of trumpet.
Yes.
It's a very physical instrument.
It sure is.
And I didn't know. Who knew? I looked at it and I thought, 3 buttons. How hard can this thing be? How stupid am I?
Right.
That's some wisdom right there.
You look at it and you say, "Is this a good, better, best button?"
Yeah. I don't know. Some nights I wonder.
So that's fantastic. So you get through school, and now, when did you say to yourself, "Wow, I'm going to make this into a career"? Was it during your senior years in school, or was it afterwards?
Well, when I was in high school and junior high school and elementary school. I went backwards, but getting to high school, I had 2 things I wanted to do. I either wanted to be a doctor or I wanted to be a musician. And I remember also there was a moment in high school when all of a sudden I all of a sudden didn't know how to do math, and it became an issue.
Yes.
When we started going from geometry, and then you went up to algebra, and then once it got to that point, it just made no sense to me.
Sure.
And so I realized that being a doctor, since I'd have to excel in some of that stuff, was going to be difficult. But also at the same time, it wasn't like trumpet was a second choice, because I was, I was really excelling in music, and it was becoming more and more of a passion. And then I started listening, over the years, started listening to people like Miles Davis,
Absolutely.
Freddie Hubbard, and Chet Baker, and people like that. And
Absolutely.
And I started hearing what I could do with the horn, or what I could aspire to do.
That's
anyway,
right.
What
Beautiful.
I could aspire to do. And I was a goner then,
That's right.
That was it. I was going to be a musician.
At this point, it's full in.
Yeah, it was all in.
Foot's down to the throttle.
By the time I left high school and I was accepted at the Eastman School of Music, there was no turning back.
That's fantastic.
No turning back, yeah.
Now, when you finally got out into the professional arena,
Yeah.
and you played your first performance, what was going through your mind? Share that with us.
My first performance was, I think, in 6th grade, professional performance.
Well, it's true.
I played in 6th grade with the New Park Conservatory Accordion Academy Band.
Excellent.
It was 32 accordions against 3 trumpets.
Oh my goodness.
If you can imagine that sound, and it was at the women's club in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I think I made $20 or something.
Back then?
Yeah. So it was that was my first So I didn't know anything
Right.
at that point. I just $20. Holy crap!
I'd have to mow a lot of lawns for this.
I made money. So that was not any gig to. But then once I was up at Eastman and I was playing. Oh my gosh! And then I played. I had a jazz. I had a little pop band that I sang and played with in high school, and we played at the King George Inn, and that was
Yes.
in Allentown, the King George.
I know
Inn.
where that is.
And I remember specifically. I mean, the story I told yesterday at our bebop lunch with John Ernesto.
Okay.
And it was so funny because I was playing and sang I think Frank Sinatra "My Way" or something like that. And there was a table of women in the front, and they were just loving everything I was doing. They were really smiling
That's
and into
great.
it so much. And I had a fever. I was sick, so I knew I wasn't that good, But I was doing what I could do, and I'm just singing and playing the solos, and these women were just like, just loving it. And then all of a sudden, I looked down and I realized my fly was wide open. So
That's great. I love it.
My career really didn't have an extremely illustrious beginning. But then, I went up to Eastman and met a whole bunch of great players and was part of a band called Oracle, and we won
Yes.
a contest, a battle of the bands, and the award, the first place was to go and record an LP in New York, in Capitol Studios in New York City.
Excellent.
And with that record, we shopped it around 2 record companies, and we landed a record deal in Los
Fantastic.
Angeles. So we all moved to Los Angeles, and I left school. And from there, we went and played the Montreux Jazz Festival, I think, the next year, and Freddie Hubbard was
Beautiful.
at the side of the
Oh
stage.
my goodness.
And it was one of the most intimidating moments of my life. Because Freddie, I just admired Freddie so much,
Yes.
and still do. I mean, he's one of the most incredibly talented musicians to ever play a trumpet.
Absolutely.
So Freddie was there, and he was really nice, and he dug what we did, and I spent some time with him. And,
Beautiful.
And it was awesome.
And he gave you some of his inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, just being in proximity to
Absolutely.
him was inspiration.
And I could hear your sound. I love how you play the mute.
Thank you.
I mean, I know that's not an easy thing to do at all. It was one of my challenges playing, but you just have it coming out so smooth.
Thank you.
It doesn't even seem like it's an add-on to your trumpet the way you play it.
Well, it's another voice, and I do
Yes.
love the sound. I mean, for me, Miles Davis was the one who really set the bar for that sound.
He sure did.
And Miles, really, that old folks and some of those songs that he did were just so awesome. The way that he sounds with his mute in. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, when you flip from a flugelhorn to a trumpet, is there something within the music as you're writing it, or is it after you write it and you say, you know what, I think this might sound with this one instead of that one?
Well, flugelhorn's a much warmer sound.
Yes.
It's a much fatter, much more welcoming sound. So I've actually been striving to get my trumpet to sound more like my flugelhorn, and I've been making a conscious effort to play more trumpet to try and get that sound, and thinking that flugelhorn sound in my head to darken it. And it has to do with playing lighter and really focusing on not pushing too hard. But I love the sound of the flugelhorn. It's just
Sweet.
a beautiful sound. It's a beautiful sound.
It's true. It truly is.
Yeah.
It truly is. You definitely are acing both instruments.
Thank you, brother.
It's great how you bring them back and forth. It makes it so interesting.
Thank you, man.
It absolutely does.
Thank
So what's Rick Braun got going on right now?
Well, I got a brand new CD
I
out,
know.
and it's called Around the Horn.
Yes.
And I'm really thrilled that it's being received the way it is. It was when it debuted about 3 weeks ago, and was #1 on iTunes.
It's awesome.
And it was #1 in Billboard. And the first single is doing well, but it's called Around the Horn. It's funny because sometimes I'll just start making a record and I don't have a full-on concept, and this was a little bit of a wrestling match to come up with this whole concept, because I knew I wanted to call it Around the Horn. That was the first thing that I came up with, and I wanted it to be kind of a musical journey and be musically influenced from. There's influence from the Caribbean on this record, from Brazil, from South Africa, from Europe, from Spain, the Mediterranean.
Absolutely.
And there's also a club influence, a dance influence from like the clubs of New York or Chicago.
I was going to say there's definitely a dance influence, because when it's on, I'm dancing.
and so the story behind this record is I just finished producing and writing and captaining three records to completion. My first was Can You Feel It?
Yes.
And then I moved right on and produced the BWB record.
Yes.
And Norman and Kirk came out and stayed with me, and that was a really fun but labor-intensive record. And then Richard Elliot came to me and said, I want you to produce my record. So I did 3 of them right in a row, and all 3 of them were very organic, live musicians.
Yes.
Richard's record, even we didn't even have songs when we went into the studio. We wrote the songs in the studio, very old school. So it came time, and then I needed to do mine right away because I signed a deal with Shawnee Records, and they wanted the record. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God! I'm like, I had nothing.
It happens.
And I wanted it to be different. And I was riding with my daughter, taking her to school, and you'll very seldom hear a father say this, but I'm going to say it right now.
Please.
Thank God I have teenage kids.
There you go.
My kids they're good kids, but if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have found the inspiration for this record, because I heard I was in the car and We Don't Talk Anymore came on, which is Charlie Puth and Selena Gomez, and it's a hit right now. And I'm listening, and I go to my daughter, what is this song, Emma? What is this? She says, oh, Daddy, that's my favorite song. That's Charlie Puth, Selena Gomez. Don't you like it? And I said, yeah, I love it. And I started picturing that harmon mute playing the melody. And so all of a sudden I was off and running. And then I worked with a very talented keyboard player, arranger, singer, composer, John Stoddard.
Yep. And
John Stoddard is all over this record. John actually came. In LA, we do this a lot. We say, let's get together. Let's do this. Yeah, let's do this. And you never get it done. It took a guy from Mobile, Alabama to say, I'm coming out to your house. When can we do it? He booked a plane ticket, and he was at my front door and stayed with me for 3 days.
Fantastic.
And we had the time of our lives, and wrote, I think, this first cut on the record, So Strong, Everything Is All Right.
Yes.
And then John said, well, since you're doing this contemporary dance vibe, he said, have you heard Alicia Keys in Common? And I said, no, I haven't.
What an influence.
So I put the video on in the studio on YouTube, and it was like, oh man. And that song, again, I'm playing trumpet, muted trumpet, and trombone on that record, on that song. And there was another strong cover. Mm-hmm. And then Jonathan Butler, it's funny, once the door opened, it organically steamrolled.
Absolutely.
And so I'm playing. Jonathan Butler is a very dear friend of mine. He's like my brother.
Oh, that's great.
We spend Christmases together.
That's fantastic.
And our families, and he says to my son Kyle, he says, I'm your black dad. Let's go golfing.
There you go. So my clubs are warm.
and he comes to his basketball games, and so Jonathan came over. And he's listening, and he's listening to So Strong, and then he goes, Ricky, you should record this Coldplay song, Yellow. you have to record this. I want to record it, but I hear flugelhorn on this. I hear flugelhorn on this. You have to record this. So I put that on. And then John Stoddard, I told him I wanted to record it, and he was at the house at the same time. So I said, John, I want to do this. So I went out to have dinner, and I said, check this out. And when I came back, John had already reharmonized that song on my acoustic piano.
Awesome.
And I think the next night we set up the microphones, and I played, and he played, and you know, we did like 3 takes, and I think it was like the first take that we ended up using. But so the record is different because it's influenced by modern pop music.
Yes, it is.
And it's also different for me because it's a journey around the world musically, around the horn. Because around the horn used to mean you sail around the tip of of South America or Africa.
That's right.
To get from Europe to Asia or from New York to San Francisco. It's not a sports show. I know there's a sports show. It's not about the sports show. And it's also around the horn. The third implication is, for me, it's about trying to dig a little deeper into what I'm saying.
Beautiful.
And the inspiration for that came from my dear friend Till Brunner. Now, Till is featured on the Harmon Mute on the title track called Around the Horn. And that particular song was written by another keyboard player and myself. And it's a very complicated harmonic song. And Till Brunner is Germany's most successful jazz musician ever. I mean, he's played for Obama and Merkel, and he's a celebrity judge on their version of the X Factor.
That's great.
He dates supermodels. He's my hero.
Yeah.
And he plays his butt off.
That's awesome.
So he came over to the house, and I had already played my part because I wanted to focus on his, and I left spaces for him. And he played his part, and after he played what he played, I had to redo everything I played because I was playing the stuff I normally play.
Isn't that great?
And I was so grateful because he forced me to dig deeper harmonically, and I listened to what he was playing, and he was saying things that I don't know how to say. You know what I mean? And he was leading me down a road, and so I sat there, and it was like a trumpet lesson.
It was your uncharted territory you've been waiting for.
Exactly. And so I was so grateful to him, and he just texted me this morning and said, brother, I'm coming into town, and we call each other brother because Braun and Bronner, you know.
There you go.
He's coming into town, but sadly there's only one day I got to reserve that day so we can get together and have margaritas and Mexican food.
And you know, Rick, I can't get over how fast time went, but on that song, I just have to tell you, coming from a Caribbean background myself, growing up in the inner cities, you really touch so many points. And when I hear that, I hear so many elements to that song. It just is amazing.
Thank you.
I have to congratulate you on it. Thank you for sharing it with the world and everybody who was involved.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I mean, if I have a moment, I just want to tell people about one more thing.
Absolutely.
And that's a benefit that I host.
Absolutely.
It's a New Year's Eve show.
Excellent.
And it's a benefit for autism. And my daughter's autistic, so it's a cause that's dear to my heart. But we've been doing it for 10 years.
Fantastic.
And it's in Tucson, Arizona, in a beautiful resort. And then last year I had Jeffrey Osborne and Richard Elliot, and we went out and we added a golf tournament to the event. So
excellent.
Jeffrey and I went out and golfed together, and it was so much fun. So this year, I want to let people know the tickets just went on sale, and they're going very quickly. My musical guests this year are Dave Koz.
Wow.
I've also got my brother from another mother, Jonathan Butler.
I would hope
will be there. I've got Vincent Ngala will be there. Michael Lington will be there.
Excellent.
Very talented Lindsay Webster, who is also on the record.
Fantastic.
Did a fantastic job. And so we're going to have a great time. So I want to let people know. Come to rickbraun.com.
Yes.
That's the place you find out. Join me on Facebook on my fan page, my official fan page. We have a lot of fun. Share your pictures and stuff like that. And hopefully I'll see everybody at the New Year's Eve show.
And we'll be a part of making that happen for you, Rick.
Thank you
I'm all
so
a part of
much,
that
man.
more than anything. That's how we are to share and make sure we help the world as a team. You're welcome.
Thank
you so much for being here,
all
folks.
Right,
this is No Excuses. My name's Rodney Arbona, and I'm with my special guest, Rick Braun. It's such a delight to meet each other. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching and being a part.